I'd like to call the meeting to order. The December meeting of the Haywood County Board of Education is now in order. At this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Rogers if he would lead the board in a prayer. Please rise for the invocation, immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Let's pray together. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you that we can call upon you in times like these. God, we thank you that you're over all things and we can put our faith and our trust in you and know that you have a plan. And that plan is for prosperity and that plan is for perfection. So, Lord, we just lift Haywood County Schools up to you. I ask, God, that you would watch over them, that you would lead us and guide us and protect us in the decisions that we make. Lord, we desire to please you above all things, for we ask all things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Under announcements, I'd just like to announce that we have Mr. Henson is joining us remotely, just as myself. And Mr. Jimmy Rogers had a family obligation tonight, and so he will not be able to join us. And Mr. Nesbitt had a business commitment that he couldn't be with us tonight. Do any of the board members have any announcements they would like to make? Okay. Are there any agenda adjustments that we need to take care of?
Yes, sir. Building Grounds needs to add 3 items to the agenda.
Okay. How about right before the Finance Committee financial reports on number 17? We'll just do it right before that. If I pass it up, remind me, somebody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Chuck, I need to add one to finance, please.
Okay, we'll just do it under regular monthly financial reports under 17 as well. I assume that was Mr. Clark, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other changes or adjustments? Okay, there's not been any. I need a motion for approval of the agenda as amended.
So move, Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Mr. Kirkpatrick made the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second, Mr. Francis.
Mr. Francis made the second. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We've adopted our agenda for this evening. Next, it looks like we've got Ms. Jenny Wood on the agenda.
Chairman Francis, members of the board, it is my pleasure to recognize our holiday card winner this year. She is an 11th grader at Tuscola High School and in Art 2, and her name is Perry Frazier, and she's here tonight, and I'm so excited. She gets to get her framed print. She'll take that home, as well as 25 of her own cards and a $100 check from the school. Congratulations.
Next on the agenda, congratulations to our Christmas card contest winner. Also next on our agenda is Dr. Putnam.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's at this time I would like to recognize Laura Turner, Athletic Director for Tuscola High School, for some special athletic recognitions.
Hey guys, I'm very excited to be here, and I want to recognize our fall athletes and all their accomplishments. Tuscola had a very, very successful fall. We had conference champions, players of the year, state qualifiers, and all region and all conference selections. Each of our fall sports did make it to the playoffs, and we are extremely proud of our coaches and their team. And first, I'm going to introduce Chris Brookshire to recognize all of our football players.
Mr. Chairman, Board, Dr. Nolte, Dr. Putnam, Ms. Barker, everybody else. Thanks for allowing us to be here. I think we're supposed to do this in order, but just real quickly, I'd like to say a few things about our team this year. Obviously, we want to be doing this last. Next year will be the last group to come in. So I just want to let everybody know that we're going to make sure that we are the last group that comes through. We were very close this year in a lot of different situations. We lost 3 games by less than a touchdown. This group has really bought into what we're trying to do at Tuscola. So we're very blessed. This group of seniors has done a great job in changing the face of the culture at Tuscola. And as you guys know, I said this 2.5 years ago standing here that Tuscola is probably one of the dearest places in my heart, and I still think it's the best school around. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our people. First, senior Jaden Mintz. Jaden. Jaden Mintz. Just stand up. Jaden's a 2-time all-conference football player. We moved him to running back this year, and he did a great job also. He was also our defensive MVP at Tuscola. Next is Jordan Butler, Jr. Jordan played linebacker, was unanimous choice at inside linebacker, and was also our offensive MVP at running back. Excuse me.
Certificates are right here.
So that's mine.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. I think I screwed up the process.
Right.
Yep. Next, we have 3 guys that are at basketball practice right now. Hopefully they'll be here before this is over with. Next is Mason Baker. Outside linebacker. The ones that are not here right now is Jet Benson, Jr., wide receiver. He's at basketball practice. Jacob Broom, senior, offensive lineman. And I have left one off. Lucas Ritter is coming back from a college visit as we speak. Okay, Darian Lunsford next. Darian, as he comes up, Darian is a 2-time, just found out last week, he's a 2-time All-State performer. There's still a couple more publications that's got to come out, but he's done a great job for us, and look forward to seeing him playing on Saturdays as we go forward. He was also Special Teams Player of the Year in our conference. Honorable mention, Jason Lane. Honorable mention, Nick Baker. Nick was all-conference last year, and him and his brother, if y'all hadn't noticed, they look a lot alike. They had 2 tackles difference all year. Everything they did is pretty close to the same. Nick was all conference last year, was honorable mention this year, and it was a reverse this year for Mason. And Graham Mcclellan, who was first-time sophomore offensive lineman. Guys, we really appreciate everything you do for our county. We're grateful that you guys, we have a community and board that does what you do. I've worked in 2 or 3 different places, and without a shadow of a doubt, this is by far the best place for anybody to have their kids or to work at. So we're grateful, and thank you guys very much for what you do.
Parents, if you want to come up and get a picture, please come on up. Come on up and get a picture.
Wait, me now.
JJ.
Okay, next I have Andrew Johnson, who's our tennis coach.
Just for that.
Okay, I came with prepared notes this time, now that I know what kind of happens here. So yes, good evening, I'm Coach Johnson, and I am super excited to be representing 3 all-conference players from our girls' tennis team this year. Just qualifies a little different. You can qualify as a team for tennis and also as individually. So we got 3rd place this season, so that's just one away from qualifying as a team. Let me take this off. But much of that success is due to these 3 individuals here with a combined singles and doubles record of 47 and 14. So very, very significant win percentage there. I will first recognize freshman Sierra Sellers, who made all conference her very first year. And she went on to even advance to the 2nd round of the regionals tournament after an amazing comeback win over a senior from North Lincoln. She went 12-1 in the regular season. Her only loss was splitting with Wes Henderson, and they ended up winning the conference overall. So very phenomenal work. And then finally, I will recognize, super excited to recognize Annika Lamb and Cooper Richardson, 2 seniors. And actually, the last time I was here over the summer recognizing Alex Gordiev for boys, I had driven straight from the WMAC conference tournament where they had gotten all conference recognition their first time to actually fall in the first round of regionals tournament that year. However, this year, complete turnaround. And as far as I could research, they have the most successful season in Tuscola tennis history. They have remained undefeated through the regular season. 1st place all-conference tournament, 1st place regionals, Western Regionals tournament, advanced to the state semifinals, tied for 3rd, and their only loss came at the very end with a total final record of 20-1. So I want to know. And Cooper Richardson also has Player of the Year recognition as well. And then quite briefly, finally, I do just want to say that these players exemplify what it means to be a scholar athletes. Cooper and Annika, as seniors, they've received their college acceptances. They're waiting on more college acceptances. And even as seniors, they're taking the most challenging course load that you can do at Tuscola High School. They all understand the determination of what it takes to succeed on and off the court. And I'm super excited of the impact that they have left with the Tuscola tennis program. Thank y'all.
Our soccer coach and players couldn't be here tonight, but Coach Sugg wanted me to recognize We had 3 all-conference soccer players. Bryce Worley, a senior, Ben Mahaffey is a junior, and Diego Hernandez as a sophomore. And Bryce and Ben were also all-region, and they also went to the playoffs first round. And next, I have Kevin Fitzgerald with cross country.
Should I welcome them in? You guys come on in. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I saw him on the screen there a minute ago. And the rest of the board. My name is Kevin Fitzgerald. I'm the cross-country coach at Tuscola, the men's and women's cross-country coach. And behind me are members of the ladies' team and one of the members of our men's team that were being recognized tonight, as well as a number of parents, and most importantly, my volunteer assistant coach, Joanne Rinker. Where's Joanne? Oh, there she is. You just walked by over there. But I can't understate the value of having somebody like Joanne as an assistant coach, who's always there, and who steps in on the occasion when I can't be there, but is also somebody that knows every one of these kids and has worked with them for a number of years as well, in a variety of sports. So we're here to honor two teams. Our ladies team, I'll just get to the end of the story. They finished 4th in the state this year in the 3A ratings, which I tried to find out the last time that a Tuscola team had finished that high at the state meet, and I know that there was a men's team about 40 years ago that was a runner-up. But I know of no other ladies team that has finished that high. They finished 4th in the Western region, so naturally they held their place when we went to the state meet, 2nd in the conference, in the new conference, and have a number of athletes that achieved all conference honors on this team. 5 of the ladies. Cross country typically has 7 runners that when you get to that type of a meet, conference, region, or state, 5 score. And so 5 of them were all conference. That's freshman Hannah Downs, Lucy Snyder-Lowe, sophomore Alexis Stevenson, and juniors Selah Hill and Eva Rinker. And then we had one of our guys, Andrew Delben, who also achieved all conference recognition. And at the regional meet, which is the top 10 runners in the entire region, we had 2 of our runners, Lucy Snyder-Lowe, a freshman, and junior Eva Rinker, that achieved all regional honors. This team also achieved something that hasn't been done in the history of this school, and they had 3 meets this year where they scored a perfect score. And a perfect score means you took place 1 through 5. So a total of 15 points is the lowest amount of points you can score in a meet. And they did that 3 times, and on a 4th occasion they scored 16 points. So they missed by having another perfect score by 1 point. There were a couple of meets where they had 8 out of the top 10, 9 out of the top 10 places, first 10 places in the meet. So they were a force to be reckoned with. And now I want to talk a little bit about Andrew Delben, the lone senior here tonight. That's the good news for these ladies. There are no seniors on this team, so they'll all be back next year. So we expect bigger and better things even next year. But Andrew, lone senior on the team, been working with Coach and Andrew since he was a 6th grader at the middle school. So that's going on 6 years in both running and then on the swim team here at Tuscola as well. And I've seen this young man transform himself into an incredible athlete, where he qualified for the state cross-country meet this year, the only runner from Haywood County to qualify. And that says a lot, because there's some talented runners in this county. But not only is he an incredible athlete, but he's also an incredibly intelligent young man and one of the finest people I think I've ever spent time with. So super proud of him, and know that when he graduates, he's going to go on to do bigger and better things than he's done here. And it's just been an honor and a privilege to work with him, as well as all of these other young men and young women. There's also a few other ladies that were on the team, didn't achieve those all conference honors, but were integral parts of this team, and I want to mention them as well. Skylar Ball, they're freshmen. Skylar Ball, Annalia Hill, and Gracie Rinker. sophomore Annalise Phillips, and juniors Faith Doherty and Emily Ferguson. So that's the total of 11 that we had on the team. So I think that's all I have. Super proud of these guys, and so grateful to have such incredible parents of these young folks that provide that kind of support. And lastly, the support of the school. Laura Turner is doing an amazing job as the athletic director for Tuscola, and very supportive, and so I really appreciate her, as well as Heather Blackman, the principal, as well. So thank you for letting us come in and take up your time tonight in honoring these young men and women. Thank you.
So let's have some of them slide to the front, some step up on the stage so we can get you all in the picture. Those of you in the back, step up on the stage. There you look.
All right, next we have Amanda Ballou and our volleyball team.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm very excited to be here tonight to recognize our student athletes for Tuscola Volleyball. This was my first year as head coach of the varsity team, as well as I had 2 first-year assistants, Coach Mahaffey and Coach Maynard. We were able to finish 5th in our conference. We also made it to playoffs. One of our other big accomplishments was that we were one of 3 teams in our conference who beat West Henderson. We beat them 25-19. As I recognize each student athlete, I also want you to realize that they not only excel on the volleyball court, but also in the classroom and in their community. And as a coach, that makes me really proud. I'm very excited about how these seniors are going to represent Tuscola volleyball in the future. So first, we have Delaney Buchanan. Delaney was our middle hitter. She is a senior. Delaney had 140 kills this season with 20 blocks. As you can tell, she's an energetic leader on the court. She also is a 3-sport athlete. She is a standout in both basketball and softball, and is actually going to Emory and Henry to play softball. So again, Delaney Buchanan. Our next athlete is Hannah Wells. She was our other middle hitter. Hannah is a senior. She had 188 kills this season with 36 blocks. Hannah also excels in the classroom. She currently has a 4.48 GPA. And she is also a 3-sport athlete. She participates in volleyball, swim, and soccer. Hannah Wells. And then Addison Wyatt. Addison is a 4-year varsity starter. She is our setter. She was able to reach the goal of getting 1,000 assists this year, early in the season. She had 512 assists this season with 35 aces, 11 block assists, and 36 kills. Addison also excels in the classroom with a 4.48 GPA. And then Caden Millette was selected as honorable mention all-conference. She couldn't be here tonight, but she was our libero. She finished the season with 303 digs and 22 aces, and she currently is leading our conference in digs.
Okay, and our last is Sean Williams with our golf team.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sean Williams, the varsity girls golf coach for Tuscola. We had a great season this year. Going into the season, we had 2 players that I knew of, but I distrusted. I knew we were going to have a team. We ended up having 6 players, 6 girls, and they were really representing Haywood County. Fortunate to be with Tuscola, absolutely. So we had a great season. They were the Mountain 7 conference champions, which is very exciting. They really tried hard and did a great job. Darla Forrester is not here tonight. She made all conference. And McKenna Williams, she's a freshman. She got all conference as well. And was also the player of the year for the Mountain 7 conference. And we have Lakin Williams. She was on the team and obviously did a great job. She's a senior. And Emma Arrington, she's a freshman, so we have a lot of good potential there. Another player that wasn't able to come tonight was Sakari Morgan. She's a sophomore, so we have 3 girls coming back next week, or 4 girls coming back next year, and we'll probably have a few more. McKenna made it to the regionals, and she finished 4th out of 49. Made it to the state and finished 39th out of 78 in the state championships. So we're very proud of her. So thanks for your support, and looking forward to next year.
It takes some time to do this, but what a fun time and fun thing to do. I'm so proud of these kids. Next, we have some special recognitions from Pisgah High School. And Miss Heidi Morgan, the athletic director, will get us started.
Members of the board, Dr. Nolte, Dr. Putnam, Ms. Barker, thank you for having us today. The first group I would like to start with is our volleyball all-conference. Girls, if you'll come up to the front here. I want to take a moment to talk about our entire team for just a second. This is a group who worked tremendously hard. I can't say enough positive things about them, but they had a complete turnaround. They went the previous year with a record of 2-10, and this year we were 15-6, finishing 3rd in the conference and making it to the 2nd round of the state playoffs, where we lost to a very good North Iredale team who finished 2nd in the state. So as a team collectively, they did awesome. But our all-conference awards this year went to Ashton Frady. Ashton is Ashton is a senior, and this year, just a few stats to share with you. She had 177 kills on the season, 142 digs, and 14 aces overall for her serve. So she was a tremendous leader. She was one of our captains, and she's going to be missed so much, not only in volleyball, but basketball as well. Our next young lady was Chloe Birch. Chloe is a sophomore. Junior, sorry. Chloe is our setter, and this year she had a tremendous growth with her assists and had 606 assists on the year, which she almost tripled that from last year. So that's very impressive. The next young lady is Laura Piva. Laura joined us this year from Italy, and she's been a great addition to our team. Laura finished the year with 278 digs and 358 kills. So she was a great addition as well. Maddie Ray. Maddie started our serving rotation and served rockets to get us started, and she had just an amazing stat of 50 aces, scoring 291 points serving. So there's a certificate, Ashton. Maddie. Okay. Congratulations, girls.
Let's get you.
Sure.
Stay put, girls. Got a chance making your way through. Tip toes, Heidi.
Oh, my phone was turning on. It's there. I'll send it to you. Okay.
I forgot to mention one thing. Ashton, our senior, potentially could be playing at the next level at Mars Hill next year. The next group that I would like to introduce is Coach Harold Shepard for women's tennis.
How's everybody doing tonight? My name's Harold Shepard. I am the women's tennis coach at Pisgah. In front of you, you have Sarah Parrott. Sarah has currently got a 4.4 GPA, weighted. Unweighted, it's a perfect 4.0. Sarah was a team captain for me this year, and she has been a leader off as well as on the field, on the court, I should say. Sarah was our only regional qualifier this year, and she was a great representation of what our county is and the program that we are trying to build at Pisgah is. So I'd like to recognize Sarah Parrott as our all-conference tonight in front of you.
He did smile. Harold smiled. All right, yeah.
Next, we have Coach Alt for men's soccer.
Good evening. When I think back on our year, it was a year I feel like we had to grow up fast. And we have 22 players in our program, and 15 of those were freshmen and sophomores. So it really came at us fast, but we even with being young, we were able to double our wins over the previous 2 years. I feel like we were competitive in every match that we were in. We had a winning mentality, and this young man here, Evan Bird, was one of the reasons of our success this season. If you want a player that's going to play with heart from the very first minute till the very end of the match, it's Evan Bird. And in training and in games, I'm so proud of this young man. He was elected to our all-conference team, and not only that, he was elected to our all-region team. And he was one of only 2 sophomores out of 27 young men to be in the all-region team. So I really congratulate Evan, and really the only defender that was a sophomore out of that whole region, all-region team. So very proud of Evan Bird, very proud of our young men that we have and the direction that we're headed. We're playing some exciting soccer. We're fun to watch, and we're going to be an exciting team, and I'm really excited for these young men. Congratulations, Evan.
Next, we have cross country with Coach Sablack.
Good evening, board members. At PHS, we've started building a tradition of excellence in our cross-country program. This past season, all of our team members have grown as athletes and as individuals. One was a standout, finishing the season by improving his time by over 2 minutes since the beginning of the season. And in a 5K, that's a big deal. He also finished 7th overall in the Mountain 7 Conference Championship race, and as a freshman, missed qualifying for the state meet by only 2 places. As a 9th grader, these are impressive achievements. I look forward to continuing coaching him, watching him grow into a young man. And so I'd like to present a Mountain 7 All-Conference Cross Country Award to Pisgah High School runner, Daniel Sablack.
Y'all turn around there, we'll get a picture of you. Congratulations.
Next, we have Coach Chappell for football.
Thank you guys and ladies for having us again. It's always nice to be able to come back and celebrate championships and individual accomplishments by our kids. We brought some young men with us here tonight from our JV team and from our varsity. And for the first time, I've brought our coaching staff with us as well. So I'm going to be able to introduce those men that are behind all of the accomplishments for us. First, I want to introduce a couple of our JV guys. The first one I'm going to introduce is Mr. Hudson Smith. Hudson was a two-way starter for us, linebacker and running back. You better scoot, we got a lot of them. The next one we have is Mr. Braden Reynolds. Braden was our do-it-all guy for us. He took care of us on both nights, Thursdays and Fridays. Next one is Mr. Jake Henson. Jake was a big-time player for us. Unfortunately, he was one of our injuries that we lost mid-season and lost for the season, but we're excited about getting him back for 2 more full years. Next one we have is Mr. Titus Bridges. Titus was a starting linebacker for us and one of our leaders on that side of the ball. Certainly excited for these guys that are here. They did a really good job, and we call these guys the seniors of our JVs. And they did a really good job as leaders for us, not only on the field but in the locker room and the classrooms as well. And we're always excited about being able to celebrate those accomplishments for them. I'm going to bring up our varsity guys to go with them next for us. So our first guy is Mr. Heath Hanna. I always like to give a few short stories if I can. Heath was a defensive player for us early in the season and had to transition and be a two-way player for us. A little difficult and sucked some wind on the first game, a little out of shape when it came to playing both ways, but did a phenomenal job for us late in the season, but certainly glad to have him playing for us. Does a little four-wheeler racing on the side. Mr. Jackson Morgan. Jackson started the season for us at offensive guard, had some things that took place and some injuries, and finished out the season for us as a starting center. Did a really good job under the circumstances. When your dad's coaching offensive line, it makes things difficult. So we're certainly excited for him too, and helped us have a successful year. Mr. Ethan Bumgarner. Ethan was one of these players that you see come through your program that you want to do good so bad, and to have the season that he had his senior year, it was well worth the wait. He was certainly exciting to watch as a defensive end for us, and there were numerous times that we were playing Hello Darling over the intercom because of some sack or big hit he had. So certainly excited for him. Come on up. Mr. Jackson Holland. Jackson was an outside linebacker for us, all-conference player. So many things for him. One of the neat stories for me, I do the radio show on Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock at Riverview Farm and Garden, and he was there every morning beating me going to work the next morning after a ball game on Friday night. So the work ethic that he has is something that I will always remember. Come on up. Mr. Evan Easton. Evan had a very remarkable season for us. Game-winning touchdown against Franklin. But then he decided he wanted to take a game off for appendicitis. Had a little surgery, and I think we all remember him for his success on a blocked field goal attempt in a certain game. So nice job, young man. Mr. Luke Pinkston. Luke was not one of our starting linemen. He was our all-conference kicker 2 years in a row, did an outstanding job for us. Certainly excited about what he brought to the table. Just was very consistent for us, and as a kicker, that's a huge deal for us. So, and going to sign and play at Maryville College here in the next couple of weeks, so we're excited for that as well. Mr. Ian Rogers. Ian was a workhorse for us. 1,000-yard rusher. Certainly paid his dues as he came through the program. Phenomenal senior season. Enjoyed watching him run the ball so much. He will certainly be missed and was a big part of the success of our program. These next two guys I'm going to kind of group together as I talk to them. Dylan Mcclellan is the first one. Dylan was our starting center. Don't know that I've ever had a lineman that has been as smart as Dylan. He made so many calls for us up front. A tremendous loss when we lost him to a season-ending injury that Jackson came in and helped fill that void for us. But he was an all-conference player even though he wasn't. He was certainly very important to us and was a team leader. And a captain for us as well. Gabe Nussman is standing beside of him. Gabe, again, one of those guys that I could not run out of the weight room. I'm still having a hard time doing it now, even though he's done playing for us. But had another season-ending injury for him as well. But he was another one of our guys. It was a leader for us, all-conference type player. Was having such a great year, and unfortunately had those things happen. But these guys just represented so much for us, even though they weren't with us on the field once that happened. As captains, they stayed right with us the whole time, and certainly we're glad to have them and hopeful for good things in their future. The next group of men that I get to introduce, and I'm excited about this one as well because I haven't done this before, and I wanted to take time to do it tonight, so thank you for obliging me with that. Coach Bentley Rogers. Coach Rogers. Coach Rogers is our defensive coordinator. Been our defensive coordinator since 2017. Just a phenomenal guy. Does a great job with our defense that we hear so much about. And want to introduce some of the assistants on his side of the ball. Coach Tony Francis. Coach Tony coaches the defensive hogs up front. He's also the punishment coach, so there's not a lot of these guys like to see him. Coach Jody Mathis. Coach Mathis coaches the defensive end. He is that one that I like to stand beside of when I'm in trouble because nobody will mess with us. Coach Jacob Hanna. Coach Hanna is a defensive backs coach for us. He also serves as our head JV coach. He and I share similar haircuts. We do not go to the same person, however. Coach Jeremy Cagle. Coach Cagle also serves in the secondary with us in the defensive backfield. Coach Cagle is one of our community members who we're certainly thankful that we have on our staff. That would be our defensive staff. Our offensive staff, Coach Zach Gibson. Coach Gibson is our offensive coordinator, running back coach. He's been with us from 2018 to the present. He reminds me that we have won championships ever since he's been here, so we need to keep him on board. Coach Jacob Morgan. Coach Morgan, I mentioned earlier, Jackson's dad, coaches our offensive hogs, we like to call him, and he's usually the one telling me to calm down. Coach Metcalf, Coach Charlie Metcalf. Coach Metcalf is our quarterback whisperer. He does such a great job with them. We just got him picked up this past year. A ton of knowledge and experience that comes with him. Coach, I won't tell him how old you are, however, but certainly we're glad to have him on board with us. Coach Barry Lance. Coach Lance was one of our new assistants as well this year, offensive line, and he is our eyes in the sky, so he gives us a lot of knowledge coming from up top of the press box. Again, just wanted to celebrate everything that these men and these young boys accomplished this year in light of all of the adversity, that we've dealt with. Our JVs, this was the third undefeated team that we've had since I've been here. They were conference champs for the 5th year in a row. Our varsity was 10-2, 4th conference championship in a row. The seniors that are on the team will go out, we'll have them won a conference championship all 4 years with a record of 33-7. They extended our winning streak to 9 in a row. Both programs, and I think this says a lot, and I actually hope that we don't go back down this road again because of the circumstances, but both programs, 4 championships in 1 year. That's pretty phenomenal when you think about it. Hopefully we're not dealing with COVID and having to have seasons in the spring again like we did, but just so many accomplishments from these young men. I did want to mention some of the adversity that these boys faced with everything this year. We lost Coach Ron Cagle, who was one of our assistants that we've had for a number of years, passed away back in June. We lost Jonathan Jorstad, radio announcer, Coach Steve Ledford. Some tremendous loss we've had in our community. Obviously the flood there in early August. We had games that were lost because of COVID from other teams. Thankfully we didn't have any of it that we had to postpone on our side. The injuries, we mentioned some of these guys. Just to hear this and to understand where this group came from, and I'm going to talk just from the JV side first. We had a broke collarbone, we had an ACL, we had a wrist that was broke, we had a hand that was broke, we had a big toe that was broke. All 5 were starters, and all 5 were done for the season, and they still accomplished an undefeated season. The varsity, we had 4 ACLs. We had appendicitis, we had an ankle broke, we had a thumb broke. 6 of those 7 were done for the season, and 5 of those 7 were starters. So to see how these group of young men battled together in light of all of the adversity that we had, the men that we had coaching them to keep this group together, Haywood County and Haywood County schools should be very proud of what this group did. Thank y'all.
will step up on the stage. Coaches, if you'll kind of split on either side of the stage. The rest slide in the front. So somebody step up on the stage.
Gabe, I think it's home.
Hey, you, sir.
I need to get some on a knee and the front, just so we can
That's definitely
get everybody.
young ones get up on the knee. The old ones stand in the back.
Now squish it just a little bit more.
Is there a coach of the year in the room?
There is. Look at all them faces.
And one last thing, Coach Chappell was voted Mountain 7 Coach of the Year for our conference.
And I coached through the coaches. Makes me old.
Thank you, guys. Oh, wait a minute.
Three of the coaches.
Thank you for having us.
I'll never forget. I won't tell you.
Congratulations to all the athletes.
How many we got?
I couldn't. No, I couldn't do it. That's pretty good.
You want me to call you back? Well, I got that next pass for life. I'll be at 5:15. All right. You okay? We'll pass on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Putnam. I assume now we can move on with our agenda. Congratulations to all the athletes that were recognized tonight. We appreciate your hard work and dedication, and all the coaches and athletic directors. Thank you for coming to tonight's meeting to be recognized. Next, we have on our agenda the audit report from Anderson, Smith, and Wyke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, and guests. Andy Deal will present the audit report. Thank you, Andy.
Good evening. Hope everyone's doing well. My name is Andy Deal. I'm a partner with the accounting firm Anderson, Smith & Wyke. We're the auditors for Haywood County Schools. I'm here tonight to give a brief summary of the audited financial statements for school year 2020-2021. So the year ended June 30th, 2021. We'll start tonight on page 1. On page 1, we have our first of 4 audit reports. This report here is on the financial statements and whether they're in accordance with GAAP. The other audit reports deal with compliance, and we'll discuss those later. Also, as I move through it tonight, if anyone has any questions, feel free to stop me. But here on page 1, we have our first audit report. This report is on whether the financial statements are in accordance with GAAP or generally accepted accounting principles. And we're pleased to report that this is an unmodified report, which you could also call a clean report. An unmodified report is the cleanest report you can get. The reason it's called an unmodified report is that means we didn't note anything during our audit that would cause us to modify our audit report. Next, if you'll flip over to page 14. On page 14, we have the balance sheet for the governmental funds. This is a very important page in these financial statements. This is going to give you a snapshot of the financial condition of the board as of June 30th, 2021. It's going to show you how much cash you have. It's going to show you your accounts payable balance. It's also going to show you what your fund balance is as of June 30th. If you look at the first column here on page 14, that is the general fund. And if you look at the second number from the bottom, your ending fund balance in the general fund is just over $2.6 million. So definitely want to highlight that number. Your ending fund balance is just over $2.6 million. If you flip over to the next page, this is the statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in fund balance for your governmental funds. So your governmental funds are going to be all of the funds at the school district except for your child nutrition fund. The child nutrition fund has different accounting rules, so their statements are found at a different part of this report. But you could call this page here like an income statement or a P&L. It's going to show you all the revenues and expenses of each of the funds. And if you look at the first column, the general fund again, the third number from the bottom is the net change in fund balance. So for school year 2021, we had a decrease in fund balance in the general fund of $223,000. So a slight decrease with our ending being just over 2.6 million. One thing I want to point out too while we're on this page, if you look at the second column here on this page, that's the state public school fund, the largest fund at the school district. If you look at the third number from the top, total revenues, your total state revenues are just over 48 million. So if you had a 3% cut to your state revenues, that would be about 1.4 million. So you can see how just a small cut you can eat into your 2.6 million of fund balance real quick. So just want to kind of point that out, to just 2.6 million may seem like a lot, but you can chew through it really fast, especially in today's environment. Next, if you'll flip to page 23. One thing I want to go over real quick here on page 23, this is the statement of cash flows for the Child Nutrition Fund or School Food Service Fund. The reason I go to the statement of cash flows, the accounting rules for the School Food Service Fund are a little bit different. They're more like a for-profit business, and due to that, they have to record all these complex liabilities for the retirement health plan and the pension plan. And just with all that, it kind of makes just reading the financial results a little unclear. So one thing I like to look at is, to make it simple, is just how much cash did the program make? Did the program make cash? Did it lose cash? That is a very good indicator of how well the program did. And historically here at Haywood County Schools and a lot of districts across the state, the program has struggled to make cash. And for the year ended June 30th, 2021, we had a net increase in cash of just under $900,000. So that's, a good performance for the school nutrition program. And, I think, they've came a long way with struggling to make cash, and they've made a lot of cuts. And then I think they've got help with some COVID feeding initiatives and the COVID reimbursement rate, and it kind of led to an increase in cash. But that's great news for the school district, because they have kind of struggled to not use cash. Next thing I want to go over is on page 65. On page 65, this is where the compliance report begins. We have 3 audit reports in the compliance section. We're pleased to report that all of those reports are unmodified. Again, an unmodified report is a clean report. That means we didn't note anything that would cause us to modify our report. This first audit report is on the district's internal controls over compliance and the district's internal controls over financial reporting. And again, this is an unmodified report. If you flip over to page 67, this is our report on the district's compliance with the major federal programs. And this is, again, an unmodified report, and we have no, compliance findings or anything like that. And if you flip over 2 more pages, this is the last audit report, and this is our report on the major state programs. Just like the previous report, but this is state as opposed to federal, and again, this is an unmodified or clean report. If you flip back to page 75, this is something I just want to touch on real brief here. This page may not look like much, but it's pretty important. On page 75, we have the summary schedule of prior audit findings. So during the previous audit, the audit for the year ended June 30th, 2020, we had a finding for the district being over budget in the school nutrition fund. No funds were over budget this year. Nothing was over budget. Therefore, that finding has been corrected. So pleased to report that that's been corrected, and we had nothing over budget this year. The last thing I want to go over is auditing standards require us, if we have any difficulties in completing our audit and dealing with management, we have to communicate those difficulties with you, the board. And I'm pleased to report we didn't have any such difficulties. Whenever we do an audit, we ask for a ton of documentation. We ask for a lot of questions. And here at Haywood County Schools, you guys have had a lot thrown at you with turnover in your finance department, the flooding, you've got stimulus funding, COVID. So with everything you guys have, our hat's off to you. If we ask for documentation, we still got it timely. If we ask questions, we still got an answer, and it wasn't a vague answer, leaving us asking more questions. And honestly, that just makes us, that allows us to do a much more effective audit and efficient audit. So I just want to kind of commend Nathan and the finance staff and the whole central office staff, because it's not just finance. It pretty much touches all departments. And just want to say we didn't have any difficulties in getting the audit done and given everything you guys have been through. We just want to say thank you for that. So, but that's all I have to go over. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask me. And if any of the board has any questions ever, feel free to reach out to us and let us know of your questions or concerns.
Thank you very much for the audit report. Good job.
Thank you, Andy. I think they've let you off the hook.
All right, good deal. Y'all have a good night.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'm next on the agenda.
That's correct. You're next on the agenda, but I would like to say one thing first is I'd like to echo congratulations to our central office staff and to our finance department through all the struggles and all that. We had an unmodified report, as they talk in CPA land, but it means it's a good, clean report to lay persons like myself. And I'd just like to say congratulations and thank you all for the hard work and dedication with this wonderful audit report.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. I want to echo your comments, especially everything we've been through with ransomware attacks and moving the department, and a flood and moving the department again, and illness in the department. It's a remarkable report and a real tribute to the kind of people that we have who work in Haywood County Schools. It's much like the tribute we saw earlier with our young people. Our folks will get after it if you'll just tell them what you want them to aim for, they'll get after it. At this time, Mr. Francis and the board, I would ask that you would please consider a motion to accept the audit report.
I make a motion to accept the audit report.
I second that.
Okay, Mr. Clark's made the motion, second by Mr. Kirkpatrick, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? Any comments?
I just want to say thank you and great job. Appreciate it.
There being no further comments or questions, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. Again, congratulations on a great audit report. At this point in the meeting, I'm going to hand the gavel over to Mr. Jim Francis. Since I'm not there to be able to see the folks and to conduct the open session, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Francis. I'll stay online here to listen to the comments. But at this time, Mr. Francis, if you'll take the gavel, I'd appreciate it, and we'll get back to you there when we get to the minutes. I'll take back over. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, it's time for the open session. I believe we have several people who have signed up to address the board. So now is the time period designated by the Board of Education for public comments. This time is set aside for comments from the general public in regards to matters of concern to the public. However, comments addressing specific students and/or personnel are prohibited due to confidentiality laws and regulations. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board requests that all speakers adhere to the time limitations and prohibition against mentioning individual students and personnel. First person we have to address the board is Myrna Campbell.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. It's my understanding that modifying your existing policy to make masks optional is being considered effective January 17th, 2022. I'm here to ask you to reaffirm your current masking policy tonight and reassess the situation at your January meeting. According to the report Dr. Jabin issued on December 12th, cases are up and surging in Haywood County. More alarmingly, he reported that the death rate in Haywood County for November 2021 was higher than the death rate for November 2020. As of last Thursday, 25 new cases were reported in Haywood County, a 3% increase from the day before. Because of the surge, the Center for Disease Control recommends that even vaccinated people like myself wear masks. In short, right now we seem to be going in the wrong direction, and masks have proven to be effective against infection. Our current countywide vaccination rate is only 54%. As I understand your current policy, changing to an optional masking policy now would not be consistent with the stop, slow, go designations that you adopted in September of this year, because the requirement for slow, which is yellow, is a consistent 3 weeks of 1 new case a day or less. To my knowledge, we haven't reached that benchmark, and we're not likely to in the near future. In addition, the first case of the Omicron variant was diagnosed in Mecklenburg County last Friday. At this point, we have no idea how that is going to play out, because it's supposed to be 4 times as contagious as the Delta variant. Initial signs are not promising. I have 3 school-aged grandchildren, ages 8, 7, and 5, who wear masks in all public places, not just school. They have not experienced any side effects from the masks, nor do they complain about wearing them. They're actually more prone to comment about people they see without a mask. One of the 3 just had her first her vaccination shot last week. The other 2 are scheduled to have them soon. And I think, as more and more children get vaccinated, certainly it's appropriate to consider modifying the policy. I know what you've dealt with over the past year is not what you signed up for. I can only imagine your level of anxiety and frustration. But don't let your emotions be what drives your decision. Follow the data, listen to the health experts. Most of all, please don't make a decision tonight based on what you think the situation will be in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Next, we have Ms. Stephanie Bell.
Well, I brought in so much science this time I decided to bring in the good book. The book, the Word, the law of the land. Y'all pray before we do this meeting. Everybody had their bows head except for the guy that believes the science. It was pretty disrespectful, but whatever. Do what you do. When you guys took an oath, it says, I do solemnly swear that I support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter. So help me God. Now, I guess we need a prayer meeting. Let's go. Turn your Bibles to Romans 13. Let every soul be a subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. And the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist bring the judgments upon themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Do what is good, and you will have promise from the same, for he is God's minister to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain, for he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. Therefore, you must be subject not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. For conscience sake. This lady just spoke about the Omicron, and the very first lady that came on, the doctor said, you have a headache and you're in the bed for 3 days. They go back to Don Lemon on MSNBC, and he said, oh my God, go get your vax. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die. You see how many people chose today? How many of them babies' faces did you see? It was beautiful. Them kids chose. Those parents chose when they walked in this door. You go to everywhere in Haywood County, and nobody wears a mask but our children. I've sent him link after link after link of actual science. And he's like, oh, well, the case study is only 200 people. It's only 2,000 people. It's only this or only that. The fact is that you haven't even went and done any research. You haven't tried. They don't try. They get money from the government just like you guys do. And you know, we have to realize at some point this is a government overreach. This is not a pandemic. Apparently it's here to stay like the flu. I had the Rona 2 weekends ago, deathly ill, in the bed, head busting, my whole body hurt. I got 2 babies that depend on me. And you know what? I took zinc, vitamin C, and ivermectin, and azithromycin, and here I am breathing. Why doesn't the health department give us zinc and vitamin C and vitamin D to boost our immune system? Take these masks off of our babies. They've had a chance to get the vax if they want it.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Next, we have Tyler Brimmer, excuse me.
Hello, my name is Tyler Beamer. I have a daughter that attends Jonathan Valley Elementary School. I ask that the board vote to keep masks mandatory for all children, vaccinated or unvaccinated. COVID cases continue to rise in Haywood County. There were 176 COVID cases in Haywood County in the past 7 days. This is a 25 case per day average. This number far exceeds the 6 cases a day threshold from the policy that this board created. We should listen to qualified medical professionals. They make recommendations based on scientific data, not partisan political rhetoric. When you go to the doctor for your yearly checkup or for an injury, you trust the judgment of medical professionals. Why is COVID-19 any different? The Delta variant of COVID-19 still rages throughout the country. Meanwhile, a new variant, Omicron, works its way across the globe to the U.S. The holiday season is upon us, and families will most certainly gather. This will lead to the spread of these variants. Our hospitals will be full of COVID patients with limited staff and resources. This is not the time to let our guard down. I don't like wearing masks any more than the next person. I wear it 8 hours a day at work, and I wear it in public indoor spaces. It gets old. I get it. but I continue to do it because it is my civic duty to limit the spread of infectious disease. I care about the health of those in my community more than I care about my personal comfort. I wish this pandemic would end. I really do. But the fact is, there are not enough vaccinated people in this country, nor in Haywood County, and certainly not in our schools, to control the spread of this infectious disease. Plain and simple. My hope is that one day that will change. But today is not the day, and neither is January 17th. Please use your God-given common sense and listen to the professionals. Please listen to your heart and do what's in the best interest for the safety of all students and teachers. You cannot predict the future any more than I can. It is better to be safe than sorry. All life is precious. Please keep the mask mandatory. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Beamer. All right, next we have Janet, is it Presson? Presson.
Good evening. I'm Janet Presson. I live here in Haywood County, and I've been an RN for almost 30 years now. Fact, masks do not prevent COVID or other viruses and never have. There's more data than ever now showing that. Fact, children rarely get COVID, and there is not a single documented instance of a child with COVID passing it to a teacher. Fact, the pandemic is over, and this virus is now endemic. It isn't going away, and it's going to be around for years. Fact, you can't keep children in masks indefinitely. Research has already documented physical and psychological harm from the mandated masks. And as a special interest of mine, you must consider the impact of mask mandates on children with special needs in particular. It's hard on the students, but even if just their teachers wear the masks, it will still negatively impact this population. Many need to see enunciation of words and need to hear instructions clearly, and they can't do that when their teachers are wearing masks. I also want you to consider what you're teaching our students regarding their rights. How can you possibly consider continuing a mask mandate this far into this COVID debacle is just beyond me. This is America, and we have more rights than any other country in the world. Mask mandates violate fundamental individual freedoms that we are protected from both our federal and state constitutions, including an individual's right to informed consent and due process. Also, if you can't say no to mask mandates, how are you possibly going to say no when Raleigh tries to impose vaccine mandates? I'm asking you all to show our students courage, critical thinking skills, and that you recognize and respect their rights. If students want to wear masks, they should certainly be able to do so. And for those that don't want to, they should be able to make that decision without penalty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Presson. Next on the agenda, next to address the board is Sarah Martin.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you so much for letting me come and speak and listening to what I have to say. I'm here to speak in favor of the current masking policy. I think it was an excellent plan that y'all came up with the assistance of healthcare professionals and listening to community input. Y'all came up with a really great plan that addresses both personal freedoms and addresses the need to protect our students. I am sorry that you guys have to make decisions like this, and you guys have to deal with personal and social, political ramifications for what's going on in our world right now. You guys made the commitment to have our students and our staff in the schools mask until it was safe for them to not mask anymore. And I would like for you to stick with that plan. I think it's a great plan, and it's based on facts. The CDC has come out and said that the only way to mitigate classroom and school clusters is to wear masks. And we've shown that. We started the school year without masks, and we did have a cluster of infection in our school system, and staff and students. There was several students, at the high school level. We had a bunch of staff members right before school started that got sick and had to quarantine. And then after we started masking, we haven't had problems with that anymore. So I think that's a really good direct example of that here within our own school system, at how effective this is, as inconvenient as it is. And I know we all hate masking. I mean, we've all said that. I mean, nobody is here saying like, yay, let's all wear masks forever because we want to. Nobody wants that, but we do want to keep our kids in school, and we want to keep people safe. Public safety is not a political issue. It's important to respect public safety. I feel like people have gotten up here and spewed political speeches and religious stuff, and that's lovely that people have personal opinions and that they're experts on those things, but that really doesn't have anything to do with epidemiology and with public safety. And so I appreciate that you guys have taken the initiative to listen to experts that directly have an impact on the decision that you're making. Data has shown that masking works. Duke did a study of several schools here in North Carolina. During the study period, in the communities, there were 808 community-acquired illnesses, and only 64 of those were amongst school children and school staff because they spent the time wearing masks. And so there was much less of a spread in that. That was done by Duke and the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Comparing data between masked and unmasked schools, students and staff members were 3.5 times higher of a chance to get COVID. And I want to leave real quick with a quote from the Bible, since we had a good Bible quote earlier. Proverbs 27:12 says, "A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and then suffers the consequences." So, everybody's following all this religious stuff. I think maybe we should look to other passages in the Bible that might perhaps be a little bit more educational in this situation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin. Next, we have Catherine Oberg.
All right, y'all bear with me. I don't like public speaking. Chairman Francis, members of the board, Dr. Nolte, and everyone else, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Catherine Oberg, and my husband and I have 3 children in 3 different schools this year: Junaluska Elementary, Waynesville Middle, and Haywood Early College. I'm a former teacher and currently a substitute teacher in Haywood County Schools. So I observe a lot of classrooms every week, and I want to share some examples and urge y'all to continue on with the good work that I'm seeing every day. When COVID hit and school changed, I was so grateful when I compared my girls' virtual learning to what I heard from family and friends in other states. My children's virtual classrooms were much more like a regular classroom. When y'all made the decision to return to in-person learning, I was happy that families had the choice so that they could base it on their own risk levels and their needs. In my home, we have 1 immunocompromised by chemotherapy and 3 with asthma, so we continued with virtual. I wish I had time to tell you how much the teachers did for my girls. Teachers at Waynesville Middle differentiated instruction in creative ways, held before school Google Meets with games to provide social interaction, and they encouraged my kids' emotional well-being in so many ways. This year, our family was excited to return to in-person, and I'm loving being back as a sub. We are choosing to take this risk of more exposure while still being careful. Mask wearing helps this. I'm happy for others to have the freedom to be in crowds again, to go to sporting events and other things, but we cannot do that. And I know we're not the only ones who are still social distancing and trying to limit exposure. Our schools bear the responsibility of caring for the needs of all kids, and I have seen how they're doing it. And it always comes with some sacrifices. This is what I tell kids. Wearing your mask correctly is simply a way to care for your friends and those that they live with. It's helping them stay in school, and it's helping with health issues that you may not know about. It's just how we take care of each other this year. And what I keep observing as a sub is that students reflect the attitude of the teacher. I can tell by how a class wears their masks, if it's just an expected behavior with a positive attitude. At Haywood Early College, not only have they had very few COVID cases, but according to my daughter, there's a sense of community that everyone just wears a mask without complaining because they know it helps each other. At Junaluska, I've seen amazing creativity from teachers and admin to use the safety precautions as a way to provide more opportunities instead of limits. They're using all the school grounds in creative ways, and their Veterans Day and their upcoming Christmas program are more meaningful because of the creative ways they're planning while being safer. This is what I want my kids to learn in school, that life is not always about comfort or rights, and that a challenge can become an incredible opportunity, and that choosing to live in a way that takes care of others is worth some sacrifice. Please continue the good work begun in March 2020, meet the needs of the medically fragile, and reduce the quarantines for everyone by continuing mask wearing based on the chart that you adopted that's based on case numbers. That's what we need to continue to go by. Please encourage people to stay home and get tested when they have symptoms. Case numbers are rising, and please continue to be an example for our community and model a desire to take care of each other and how you can make a challenge an opportunity. Thanks for letting me share, and thank y'all for all you do.
Thank you, Ms. Oberg. Next, we have Ted Carr.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Dr. Nolte, and staff, I'm Ted Carr, and if you don't mind me changing the subject, I'd like to talk about school guidance counselors. In my school years, guidance counselors were focused on academic and career counseling. Now I believe, in addition, there's a big emphasis on social and emotional counseling. So, do we have enough counselors to do that job? A 10-year average that ended in 2015 put the nationwide average at about 500 students per counselor. The extremes were 900 students. Wow, that's bad. 900 per counselor, and on the good side, 200 students per counselor. And the North Carolina ratio was about 400 per counselor. I was not able to determine what the ratio is for us here in Haywood County. But it's been recommended that teens be assessed every year for mental health disorders. Now, who made that recommendation? It was the American Academy of Pediatrics in 2018, 3 years ago. And look how the landscape has changed in 3 years. COVID, social distancing, masks, shots, no school, part-time school, online school, absence from friends. But one common thread here is that kids have a lot more unstructured time for just twiddling their thumbs. You say they're not twiddling their thumbs? You say they're on their phones and on their computers. Here's another survey. But it's 3 years old. But it rated Instagram as the worst and the most stress-inducing social media platform for mental health, online activity. So, using these outdated studies and ignoring the dramatic change in culture in the last 3 years, with our 40-hour school week, our counselors should be assessing 10 students a week. 10 students a week. But I doubt that that's being done. I do not want to ignore the extremely competent and supportive work that our SROs are contributing to that cause. Thank you very much. The SROs are a necessary part of the solution. So I simply ask that, no, I beg that with all the other school work the school board and the school staff are doing, you place a high priority on a mental assessment and try to prevent a student shooting as occurred a week ago. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Dr. Nolte, will you look into some of those figures for Mr. Carr? Thank you. And our last person to address the board is Robert Stokely.
This is what someone who has died from COVID looks like, by the way. We're gonna start out with that. This is my mother. That's where we can end up. Let's see her here. I urge the board to continue the mask mandate as the Omicron variant has now been discovered here in the United States and in North Carolina. COVID cases has doubled this week. We're around now 100, over last week to around 180 people. We are still in the red zone, and our positivity rate's about 10% here in Haywood County. We have lost almost 200 children, or 200 to COVID since this began, and that's been needless. Those lives were lost for no reason. The death toll is a little bit short because some people were, marked off for heart attacks or whatever because an autopsy wasn't performed, and so that may be a little underreported, but we've had over 8,000 cases here in Haywood County since this began. 8,000 in less than 2 years. People talk about the COVID vaccine, and I'm not here to push the vaccine on anyone. But when we do start school, Dr. Nolte, do we not require vaccine records? That's the first thing we ask for. What's your shot record? And no, COVID's not on that shot record. But we do ask for other, reasons. And we've all been getting vaccines for many decades. No, none of them are perfect. But people talk about it, being against God, and all that. And God said there would be plagues on the earth. We should go inside and hide until the wrath of the Lord has passed. And if you happen to not believe in God and believe in the Constitution of the United States, then you agree that the laws of the land and the rules say masking policies and other public health measures are indeed constitutional. So actually read the Bible or the Constitution before preaching about it. No, masks are not perfect, or shots. 10% of people that receive the shot, they'll still get COVID. But if we practice all of the social measures like washing hands, masking, cleaning the materials in the school, then we can reduce our odds of catching COVID if we would just follow them and actually practice those health measures. We could have been over COVID by now. So, would you recommend not wearing a mask in an operating room per se? No, because there's germs. This has become a political battle, and an unnecessary political battle between unqualified people to make medical decisions. And because there were no remote option this year, parents that chose a remote option such as homeschooling or an online North Carolina public school have been punished by missing out on the extra PEBT benefits, Shop with a Cop, or other programs the school offers. The flu shots we get today are still from,
Thank you, Mr. Stokely. Your time is expired. I'm sorry.
Right. We were just asking for you to reconsider your vote until after we see what the cases are in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stokely. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to address the board, and we appreciate everybody's comments, and we will definitely take all of those in consideration. At this time, I will turn the meeting back over to Chairman Francis.
You still here?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, could we have about a 2-minute break?
Absolutely. Let's take a 2-minute recess. Just let me know when everybody's back, okay? Yeah. Y'all about ready to get started back?
Yes, sir, we're ready.
Okay. I see I'm back up on the picture here, so board members, you've had an opportunity. Well, first of all, I'm gonna call the meeting back into session. We had a brief recess. Now we'll go to the minutes. Board members, you've had an opportunity to read and study the November 8th closed and regular session minutes as well as the December 9th closed session minutes. I need a motion for approval, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Rogers made the motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Kirkpatrick. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, aye, sorry.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I was looking at.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have Miss Jenny Wood with our calendar.
So the first on your agenda is for the current 2021-2022 calendar to approve the adjustments to make March 4th and April 1st a 12:30 dismissal to accommodate for the state mandated letters training.
Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the calendar as presented by Ms. Wood.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Francis.
I second, Mr. Francis.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Francis and seconded by Mr. Kirkpatrick to approve the calendar amendment as presented. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is for the 2022-2023 school calendar. You have two calendar options before you, a recommendation from the calendar committee and a recommendation from the administration. We ask for your approval of one of these options that we reviewed in the work session on Thursday night.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the calendar that was proposed by the administration.
Okay. We have a motion from Mr. Kirkpatrick. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Rogers. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor?
And Jeannie, could you just explain just a little bit what was the difference? Just 3 hours between what the committee was wanting and what the administration was wanting?
Also the days.
It was
fall break.
right. The major changes were the fall break and the December 23rd day before our holiday or winter break. So the administration calendar is to move the work day from the 23rd of December back to the fall break and make the 23rd a early release day.
And the rationale behind that was?
High school.
Testing, high school testing. High school testing is the last 5 days. Dr. Nolte, do you want to chime in here?
Thank you, Board. First of all, let me say we appreciate the calendar committee. They do a lot of work every year, representatives from each school. We just know that ending the first semester for high school students before the holiday break, Christmas, New Year's, and certainly other holidays that are recognized is good socially, emotionally, and we've not seen any decline in high school performance. As a matter of fact, you know, our ranking has moved up compared to other districts, so I thank you for that. The primary rationale is for our high schools not to start their testing on a Friday. They have 3 or 4 days of pretty full testing and then makeups, and we would really regret the fact that a student would be sick or ill and would have to come back after the holidays and test. So thank you for that motion and second as you consider that.
Mr. Nolte, would you explain how testing works for the high schools, it having to be in the last 5 days?
Yes, sir.
Just for clarity.
Yes, sir. State policy requires that all state required tests occur in the last 5 days of the semester. If there was a work day or a holiday or any other non-student day on the 23rd, that means that those high school tests would start on a Friday. It's very different than elementary and middle school. Elementary and middle school have 10 days, and I think our elementary school and middle school principals, probably several of our teachers too, understand what it would be like if we asked them only to test in the last 5 days and the first day was a Friday. So it's just a very different testing situation. Certainly those tests are individually no more important than the tests we have in 3rd grade or 4th grade or 5th grade, but they do carry significant weight for class rank and when students are trying to get into Haywood Community College or some other college. And so that's why administratively we are recommending that slight change in the calendar draft.
Are there any other questions? I'd like to echo the fact that I appreciate the hard work of the calendar committee. Historically, this calendar would keep us getting the testing completed in a timely fashion for the high schools, and I think that has been the goal all along. Any other questions or comments before we vote? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda, we have our monthly policy requirement on face coverings. Go ahead, Dr. Putnam.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, per our policy 4231, 5021, 7263, face coverings. This requires a monthly vote and approval of this policy or modification thereof.
Dr. Putnam, one thing I would like to comment on before we take a vote or have a motion is the fact that I know that several of us, including our administrations, worked hard and closely with the Haywood County Health Department to come up with the policy that we currently have. And I'd just like to say thank you to those folks who have worked hard to keep the policy in place until we find those numbers going down. I appreciate the hard work that the board has done, and the situation we find ourselves in each month is not a comfortable place to be. But I just wanted to say that I appreciate the work that we've done so far with the Haywood County Health Department. Now, board, I need a motion to approve the policy or some type of motion.
Make a motion, we continue and stop slow-go policy.
Okay, we have a motion from Dr. Rogers. Do I hear a second?
I second it. Mr. Clark.
Mr. Clark has seconded it. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor?
Yes, this is Mr. Kirkpatrick. There's some people that throwed out some numbers, and I know I'm not going to put Dr. Jabin on the spot over here by no means. Yet we all know that face coverings do keep kids in school. Whether they work or whether they don't work, that is debatable on both sides. Whether it's Democrat, Republican, Independent, it don't matter which side you look at. Everybody always has something that they could go back to that says something works and something don't work. But I think Dr. Rogers has said it the best time and time again. Face coverings right now keeps kids in school and they don't get quarantined, which the school system, we do not make those decisions on who gets quarantined. That is your Health and Human Service Department that decides who gets quarantined and who don't. It is not the Haywood County school systems. So that's one misconception that a lot of people thinks is the school system is quarantine people. We do not quarantine people. We do not do that. That comes from another branch in the government of Haywood County. But I would just still like to say, I just wish, I do not believe in face coverings. I'm going to say that right now. I do not believe in face coverings. Because whether it's a right or whether it's your right to wear one or it's not, but we know that our administration has worked hard to keep our kids in school and have the test grades that we have, which we are in the top 10 now.
We are 10th.
10th, that we have made that through all this COVID-19 year that we had, and I just want to say thank you to the administration for all the hard work that you have put in, and to my fellow board members, that what kind of meetings that you have went to that I just really appreciate, and I'm glad I'm on this board with you, even though we have made some hard decisions and we're getting ready to make another one, because we have to make it every month. But thank yous for everything that yous all do.
Any other questions or comments before we vote? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay. Was it Mr. Burnett? I couldn't see.
Yes.
Yes. Here.
Yes.
Okay, passes 5-1. Is that what y'all heard?
I don't know what Larry, I didn't hear
I don't know if
Larry.
Larry's on. It's 4-1, I believe.
Is Larry on?
Yes.
Okay, 5-1.
Okay. Motion carries 5-1. Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Putnam back up doing some more policies.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have before you for approval a second reading of Policy 3620, extracurricular activities in student organizations, as well as 4,400 attendance.
This time we entertain a motion for approval.
I would like to make a motion, we approve 3620 and 4,400, please, for the
Okay,
second
Mr.
reading.
Kirkpatrick's made the motion. I hear a second.
Second, Mr. Clark.
Mr. Clark has seconded the motion. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Building and Grounds, Chair Dr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Building and Grounds has 3 motions to bring before the full board tonight. The first motion is a motion to approve the following items for surplus. First, one 10-drawer toolbox with a starting bid of $100 on GovDeals. A 16-drawer toolbox with a starting bid of $200 on GovDeals. And an OTC brand heavy-duty diesel rotating engine stand, serial number 1905AQ00598, with a 6,000 pound capacity, with a starting bid of $2,800. Those will be surplused on GovDeals.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Dr. Rogers, second by Mr. Kirkpatrick. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Second motion that we'd like to bring before the full board is a motion to put the David Sherrill Diamond Skills Center under normal facility use without exception to policy 5030.
I second that motion, Mr. Francis.
Okay, we have a motion from Dr. Rogers, second by Mr. Kirkpatrick. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor?
Who will oversee that if we do that?
Central office.
Mr. Putnam, Dr. Putnam would. He's the athletic director, athletic director of Haywood County Schools.
Been replaced.
It's one of the F's I manage: fundraising, facility use, field trips. So it's one of those F's.
So if somebody wanted to use it, they'd have to come to you? contact you? Is that the way it's gonna work?
Yes, we now have an electronic facility use walkthrough. Anyone can access that online. They will complete their intended use, how many visitors, provide proof of liability insurance, and check that with the school's calendar. If it permits with the school's calendar, then it'll be available for use, provided they pay the fees and provide liability insurance. That's the same use, same application for any other facility in all of Haywood County Schools facilities.
That's correct. Any other questions or comments before we vote? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And, Mr. Chairman, if
Yes, sir.
you'd allow me just a little bit of liberty, and I know that we'll do something a little more formal than this, but there has been a tremendous amount of volunteers that have rehabilitated the Sherrill Center, and just a little preemptively, we would like to say thank you, but we will be doing that more formally in the future.
That sounds fantastic.
Finally, the last motion I'll bring before the board is a motion to use PFA Architects for all structure-related flood damage. They would be the architectural firm to look at all of our flood-related flood damage.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Dr. Rogers, second by Mr. Kirkpatrick. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers, and all the hard work of the building and grounds, and of course, Dr. Putnam and all of the staff. Next, we have on our agenda, Finance Committee reports, and Mr. Clark.
Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee reviewed the monthly financial reports. Everything looks good. I'd like to bring them up for approval, please.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Clark. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Kirkpatrick. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, I have one more item. We have a budget amendments number 2. I'd like to bring that for a motion to approval, please.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Clark. I hear a second.
Second.
Chairman, Mr. Francis, any question or discussion on the motion on the floor?
I think Dr. Nolte may have.
Some information you want to share?
I saw a board member giving me the eye, Mr. Francis.
Yes, sir.
In a kind way. This is our first budget amendment of the year. You know, we have dozens, literally, as money comes in throughout the year. These are installments, the first installments related to state pay raises that have come in 3 areas, pay raises and some bonuses. And so those are reflected in 3 areas of the budget.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments from Dr. Nolte before we vote? Okay. There being no further discussion or questions, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Almost put a doctor on me, so.
Yes, sir. Chuck's become a doctor.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Doctors and medical.
Next on our agenda, we have Dr. Nolte. Thank you, Ronnie, for your Finance Committee work.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, and guests, as you know, we have discussed several times in public meetings, work sessions, and so forth, possibly contracting with ESS for a substitute plan to provide better substitutes, additional substitutes, not better, our quality's been good, we just haven't had enough of them. When we discussed that plan earlier, there was some concern about in our legal discussion about sections 5.2 indemnity. provisions and insurance provisions. Since we had that discussion, Mr. Hines has contacted ESS, and they are good with striking paragraph 5.2 from the contract, which was a concern we talked about earlier. Thank you, Mr. Hines, and thank you, Mr. Smathers, for bringing that to our attention. So with that update, we would seek your approval of the ESS substitute plan, and then we'll, if approved, well, let me just stop and see what you all do.
I make a motion that we approve the ESS substitute plan contract.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Kirkpatrick. Do I hear a second?
Second. Ronnie Clark.
Ronnie Clark, seconded. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Mr. Smathers and Mr. Hines. We will literally strike or omit section 5.2 before we give that to Mr. Francis or back to ESS for signature.
Okay. You're still up, Dr. Nolte?
Yes, sir. These next two items are really standard items that we've had in place for some time. We take a look at those from time to time, especially when the agreement period ends. And if it's okay, Board, I'll take the first one and ask Mrs. Barker to take the second one. The first one is our standard agreement with Haywood Community College for the use of their facility where we make meals. As you all will remember, the initial early college agreement was for the school system to provide teachers, the college to provide their teachers, the school system would provide transportation and food service, and the college would provide the facilities and so for instruction. And so we have provided a electrical fee for that agreement, and it has been increased slightly at the bottom of page 1 to $336 per month. The only other change is the term of the lease agreement ending in May of 2024, and then we put Dr. White's name on there as the new president of the college. But other than that, that agreement to use their facility for meal preparation is unchanged.
I make a motion that we approve the 2021-22 Haywood Community College lease agreement for food services.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Kirkpatrick. Do I hear a second?
I'll second, Mr. Francis.
Okay, we have a second from Mr. Francis. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Board.
Mr. Francis, you might want, or Dr. Bill.
Go back to
19.
19.
Go back. You skipped over
State
19.
budget.
State budget overview.
State budget overview. It's been a long day. Or as they used to say where I grew up, it's been a long week today. I know, board members, you have heard this overview, and we have placed it, the notes on the calendar for not only your consumption that you've seen it before and for the public. If I may, given the part that we are in the meeting, I'll give a big general overview. And then people can certainly read that, and anyone who is listening in or wants to know more can just call us. We are very happy for our employees about the new state budget. This is the first time that I can remember in my career, and I've been around for some long time, where we have had a comprehensive pay increase for all employee categories authorized by the state of North Carolina. Those of you, many of you have been on the board for some time, and some years we'll get a little money for bus drivers, or we may get a little money for teachers, or we may just get a little money for new teachers. And then some years they'll throw in principals or central office. But up and down the line, the state has authorized pretty significant pay raises. All of our hourly employees will go to $13 an hour at a minimum this year. They will go to $15 at a minimum next year. And this year's pay will be retroactive. There are, on average, 5% pay increases for teachers and administrators, really a lot of other categories. That pay will also be retroactive. Because the way the law is written, most of the pay increases will begin, the retroactive part will begin in February. The reason that we're doing that is because the state General Assembly has also put in a number of bonuses for people, much like the bonus that you all and we did collectively as a board for our people, because they have done such an outstanding job during COVID-19, coming to work 5 days a week. And y'all have heard me tell that story before, so I won't do that again. And there is some language around the bonuses that they will be paid at the end of January. So that will be the rollout for most of those bonuses. So bonuses, for the most part, at the end of January, pay retroactively in February, and then in March we have our usual local supplement payout. So it is a good time financially in terms of personal bank accounts to be an employee of Haywood County Schools, and we're just really happy for our employees. We'll do a lot of hard budget work as we get into February and March and April to make sure everyone gets the pay raise that they're entitled to. There are some other things there, but those are the major points, and we'll be available for people to call us and ask us questions, and we will roll out information like we normally do as those times get closer.
Very good. Any questions?
I make a motion that we approve a 2021-22 state budget overview.
It's going to die for lack of a second, I bet. There's no motion to be made, is that right?
Well, it says approve motion.
Yeah, on the Moodle it has approval, but
Sometimes I read what is put in front of me.
I think we corrected that on the paper copy.
Yeah.
And with most things, I think that's my mistake.
See, now look, I'm doing electronic stuff, and that's what happens.
Mr. Francis and Board, if it's okay, I'll step out of the way and let Mrs. Barker do this next regular agreement with the community college.
Okay, very good.
Hey, look, paper copy.
Chairman Francis and members of the board, also with the community college, we have a MOU, a memorandum of understanding for 22-23 in regards to our educational partnership with HCC. And so many of our students take classes there, and including the board member and my daughter and a lot of other people in Haywood County. We love Haywood Community College. We've got a great relationship with them. There were only a few, and we worked together on this, and I'd like to thank Jessica Honeycutt and Carol Fox, who really, we read through this, and there were only a few slight changes. One was on page 2, and it talked about our career coaches who were beneficial. You saw Andrew up here tonight, also coaches the Tuscola tennis team, and we have also a full-time coach at Pisgah High School, career coach Philip Ham, and a part-time coach at Central Haywood High School. That coach is being paid for by our grant, our IPG grant that we were awarded. Is not paid through Haywood Community College. We hope at the end of the grant period that they will see the benefit of that and add that to that. But it did say in the original version that they employed all 2.5, and they actually only employ 2. So they've corrected that from the one that you saw. On page 6, the CCP courses that our students take, we try to keep that in line with our school day, although we know a college campus has different times. So that wording, we just wanted that to reflect any classes that started before 3 and ended by 4 that students could also take for credit. So just a little slight change in wording there, so our students could take those classes. Other than that, we were all good with it, and they felt that way too. So I'd ask for your approval for that MOU, unless you have any questions.
Any questions or comments from Ms. Barker? Mr. Kirkpatrick, would you like to make a motion for approval on this one?
Yes, I make a motion we approve the memorandum. Thank you.
Very good. We have a motion from Mr. Kirkpatrick. Do I hear a second?
Second, Mr. Clark.
Second by Ronnie Clark, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. And next we have Dr. Nolte with our personnel.
I didn't have my mic on.
Yeah.
Hey, I was gonna say, and I couldn't get.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, and guests. Board, at this time, I bring to you the personnel that we discussed previously in closed session. For your information, we have 7 separations from employment, 6 employee status changes, and 5 leave of absence. For your approval, we have 23 employments, 33 status changes, 1 leave of absence, 1 contracted service, 7 substitutes, 13 employee coaches, and 5 non-employee coaches.
I'll finish it off, Mr. Francis. I'll make a motion we approve the personnel as presented.
Yes, sir. Mr. Kirkpatrick's made another motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, have a second from Mr. Francis. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Francis, I would like to introduce our new Chief Financial Officer at this time, if that's okay with the board.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, board. It's my pleasure. Come on up, Taylor. It is my pleasure to present to you Ms. Taylor Garland. She has worked with Sheila Gahagan CPA since 2018 as either an associate or an accountant. She has a bachelor's degree in business administration with a major in accounting and a minor in finance with an accounting GPA of 4.0. She also was part of the honors college in that program. She has a master's degree in counseling also from Western Carolina University with a GPA of 4.0. She is a certified public accountant in the state of North Carolina. She has related governmental work. You know that when we talked to you all earlier, that's something we were looking for. We knew that we might not find a lot of people with a CPA or with or people who would have worked in governmental work, but she has conducted financial computations and audits for municipal and government agencies as an accountant. She is smart, a relentless worker, and has experience working pretty in depth on governmental audits. She is by all means a classic finance person, and we're glad to welcome her to Haywood County Schools. She will start in early January. So Taylor, I'll give you a moment if you'd like to say something.
Good evening. As Dr. Nolte said, my name is Taylor Garland, and I'm so excited to be your incoming Chief Financial Officer. I'm a native of Haywood County, so I attended Haywood County Schools. I grew up and graduated from them, and I never dreamed I would come back for a career here at Haywood County Schools. But I'm absolutely thrilled to be joining the team that's so dedicated to student success, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Ms. Barker told me I said counseling, not accounting, so her master's is also in accounting. Been a long week today. Okay, I think if I ever had it, I've lost it, board, but thank you for your support and your work and the work of our staff.
Thank you. Welcome to the Haywood County Schools. There being nothing else to come before the board, we'll be adjourned.